Well, thank you so much, Katie, and wise words, Mike, and thank you, everybody. Good morning. It is brilliant to be here with you in person. And I think it does feel like we are all adjusting back to something like a new and familiar normal. I passed the queue to get into Portcullis House this morning, which is something I haven't seen for a long time. It was beyond Tesco's, but that is certainly a sign of people welcoming being back in person. It feels like we're adjusting and perhaps back to the future, you might say. Whilst the science fiction technology of flux capacitors and time travel might be a few years off yet, the people and ideas circulating in this conference are amongst the most innovative in transport. And we do have to be innovative. Transport is this nation's largest carbon emitter. Cars and vans represent 1/5 of our domestic CO2 emissions, and we're all in the business of changing that. Last year, my department published the Transport Decarbonisation Plan, setting transport on the path to net zero by 2050. And zero-emission vehicles will drive that change. They will help us accelerate towards a greener, cleaner, and carbon-free industry. And this is critical because the future of transport has always shaped the evolution of our economy. For decades, the vehicles on our roads have cut the distance between friends and family, home and work, circumstance and opportunity. How we travel has so much to do with how we live. And if we can nurture the green revolution in transport, we will succeed in cutting the carbon in our everyday lives. Nobody in this hall needs to be reminded that the past couple of years have brought huge challenge to the industry. And then I want to pay tribute to you all for the efforts that you have made tirelessly. You've negotiated every hurdle and given your support for our net zero ambitions. We've seen manufacturers and fleet owners alike signing up for our COP26 zero-emission vehicle declaration. And these commitments have been backed by huge investments, north, east, south and west. Stellantis invest in more than £100 million in their Vauxhall plant at Ellesmere Port. £230 million from Ford to transform their facility at Halewood to build its first electric vehicle components in Europe. Nissan and Envision bringing £1 billion of investment to create a North East England EV hub. And British Volt, receiving a principal offer of funding to support a gigafactory in Blyth to start producing enough batteries for over 300,000 EVs every year. It's clear to me that the sector is focused on growth, and I want to ensure that we are providing the conditions that allow the industry, your industry, to flourish. Part of those conditions revolve around cost. Demand for EVs rises with low costs, and from the factory to the forecourt, the government is investing where it matters to drive down that sticker price. We've invested £850 million to boost research and development, bolster capital investment in EV manufacturing components like batteries and motors, power electronics and fuel cells. Our recent changes to the plug-in car grant has seen price reductions of up to £3,400 across 9 vehicle models, and just last week we announced plans to extend the plug-in van and truck grant by 2 more years. A timely boost for a young market where plug-in van grant orders in 2021 were over 4 times higher than in 2020. And that's just one sign of growth across the incredible automotive industry. Despite a difficult 12 months, SMMT stats show that 2021 was the most successful year in history for new electric vehicles. About as many new vehicles were registered last year than over the previous 5 years combined. And just last month, 1 in 8 new cars sold were fully electric. That's more than double for the same time last year. But as demand for EVs is approaching a tipping point, the transition to electric will be organic. not manufactured in Whitehall, not just luxury, but affordable, not idealistic, but logical. We've got to make EV technology part and parcel of our everyday experience. And that's why we're expediting our efforts to create one of the best electric vehicle networks in the world. There are already 29,500 publicly available charge points, and 5,400 of those are rapid charge points. Last year, the total number of charge points, public charge points, increased by 37%. And every month, more than 600 new chargers are being added to the network. And in the future, there will be charge points installed in every new home, office and supermarket, allowing people to charge whilst they shop, work and sleep. That's 145,000 charge points installed every year. Meeting the needs of future drivers means pushing those numbers higher. We'll harness the ingenuity of the motor industry, charge point and energy providers, and local government to ensure that we keep that momentum. A combined effort to make convenience commonplace. But growing confidence in the infrastructure is not just about getting more charge points in the ground. Most charging happens at home. It's usually faster and cheaper for drivers. It makes sense. It's more convenient than queuing for fuel. It's an improvement on the everyday experience. And so we do expect that home charging will be central to the future driver behaviour. But I recognise that today that can also be a barrier. If you don't have access to a driveway at your home, then you might think twice about taking the plunge into EVs. That's why we're taking the steps to refocus our domestic charge point grants so that drivers living in rented properties and blocks of flats have the same opportunity as those who live in a home with a drive. Our reform scheme puts these properties front and centre, enabling owners and landlords to install the right technology in the right place at the right time. It's just one part of government's forthcoming EV infrastructure strategy. And that strategy will define our vision for the continued rollout of charging infrastructure, focusing on the transition from early adoption to mass market uptake, and setting out our next steps to address the barriers to private investment, levelling up charge point provision and making it easier than ever for drivers to go electric. As we build back better and greener, we should always keep in mind that we are building a number of opportunities too. Opportunities for motorists who are ready to take the plunge and go electric, but also opportunities to tell a positive story to those enthusiasts who perhaps worry that cars of the future won't capture the joys of driving. And I'll be honest, I was one of those. A skeptic before I drove an EV for the first time. I am a walking example of a petrol head reformed. I love driving, living in the Lake District, gliding through the gears along those country roads, powering up the hills is something I really enjoy. I love the waves of an accelerating engine. But this experience is not exclusive to a petrol or diesel car. EVs are a dream to drive, rapid and responsive, with faster acceleration and smoother steering. Better in busy traffic, EVs offer an exhilarating driving experience. But crucially, as more and more EVs come onto the market and the infrastructure grows, they bring real benefits to communities too. Cleaner vehicles improve the quality of our air. That means better health outcomes and reduced congestion on our roads. Quieter vehicles mean calmer streets, and reduced noise pollution makes our communities better places to work and live. And investing in EVs also means creating new green jobs, up to 72,000 of them in 2050 from the production of zero-emission road transport vehicles. High-quality jobs, brilliant apprenticeships, exciting careers, and growing opportunity for everyone right across the UK. This is the future that we are working towards. I started this speech by talking about faraway technologies, time machines, and flux capacitors. Funnily enough, a couple of weeks ago, I learned that DeLorean is set to return to our roads as an all-electric sports car. And I'm sure you'll agree that that is a sign of a clean, green and fossil fuel future that we want to go back to. Thank you.